Well, afternoon boys and girls. As the weather isn't too great, as you can see, it's a bit lumpy and windy, gusting up to 30 mile an hour, 35 mile an hour winds. Obviously I can't go fishing in the boat, so I thought I'd come down and do a bit of rod fishing on the beach here. Obviously there's a good southerly breeze, board on a gale, that's, like it's just said, there's a gusting up to 35, constantly 20, 25, going straight along the coast, as you can see by the wind turbines there. So I thought I'd just come down and give it a few hours on the beach. Well, I'm not currently in my usual place, what's up there, what you can see in the distance. I've come to an old time favourite, Braddock Road. As you can see, it's just the car park is up here. Just walk straight down through the little gap and you're on the beach. Today, as is a good gale, I thought it'd be a good test out my little wind muff, so you don't get all these horrible windy blowy noises anymore. Let's hope this works, eh? Well, I cast out one rod about 10 minutes ago. Well, that's got a 2-hook flapper on, just baited up with herring. I'm now going to cast out the other one. This is just the 3-hook flapper, you can see, just basic 2-0 hooks. I don't want to go too small. It's basically going to be a whiting fest. But if you get the odd dab, and if you go really small hooks, them dabs seem to swallow them right down, and we don't seem to get a lot of dabs here anymore. So if you can keep them alive and not swallow the hook right down, then I think that's a benefit really. But I'm now just going to cast this out. I ain't going to go far, I don't know what the weed situation is, I ain't reeled in yet, but we'll give it a go. But I just played back the recording and what should be actually sound good now, so this wind muff is actually working. Hopefully you boys and girls can hear me a lot clearer and I won't get too many naughty boy comments. Are you kidding, guys? I ain't no expert when it comes to videoing, but yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. That was so windy and blustery noise you couldn't hear exactly what I was saying, but hopefully this is a lot better. I'm not exactly close to the sea because we're about an hour before darkness and that's about an hour after low water, so it's going to start coming up here rapidly. And as it's blowing a good hoolie, I don't really want to be moving the beach buddy in the dark, do I? Who want to do that? No one. So I'll give myself a couple of hours, just get the first couple of hours of darkness in the middle of the flood tide, and we'll go from there. There might be a lot of weed, I don't know, but I'll get this cast out, this other rod, until we go from here. Unfortunately, I think I've got a real problem. The first cast on this rod, as I cast, that virtually immediately fluffed up and I parted and snapped off. So I just re-rigged this rod and that's done it again. So there must be something up with that brake where that brake isn't coming out, but I'm only giving a gentle 30-40 yard lob. I have a finger on the spool, easing it, and yeah, that's still fluffed up and that really wanted to part. You see there's a little bit of fluff there, not much, but there's something quite right. I'll just have to untangle that and give it a bit of a look over. Well, I just took the reel apart, only the side plate off and the spool out, and give it all a blow out as best I could with your Mark 1 lips sort of thing. And just cast it again, that seemed not alright. So whether it's a little bit of grit or something, or I haven't used it in a month or two and that's something got a little bit sticky, I'm not sure, but that worked perfectly this cast, so that's a bonus. That other rod, the left hand rod, the 2-hook flap, has been out there about 10-15 minutes, so that might be worthy of a reel in. We'll see what happened there. But this wind muff is really paying dividends today in this half gale. Worth its weight in gold. I think you just saw a little rattle on that left hand rod, did I? Well, I think I better get that in and give it a look, didn't you? Well, I'm happy with that. First blood, first cast. Only a little old whiting. Poor skinny old thing, don't look much to it. But I'll get this unhooked and get it back. Poor old thing. I can't complain with a fish, first cast, when it's not even dark. Well, someone sent me a message the other day asking how I bait up heron. Well, this is how I do it. Everyone do it differently. But you got your chunk of heron. Obviously that's the belly wall, so it's thinner, and obviously this is the back of the fish. So what I always do, I always go through the flesh side in the belly, go through once, turn the hook around, back through again, back through the flesh side, and back through again. Perfect little hook bait. I find if you go the other way and go through the skin side first, when you turn it, that rips the skin from the flesh. But if you go through the flesh side first, that doesn't tear the bait and you get better presentation like that. So I'll bait up the other one and get this out. Well, I thought I'd show you my bait. Typical really around here. I've got some vacuum packed herring that I caught in my boat and vacuum packed. Then a pack of baby squid. Realistically, heron and squid, you're going to catch everything you need to round here. Unfortunately, long gone are the days of the old COD. The water's too warm and they're well vanished. I did get one about 18 months ago, probably pushing 2 years ago now, with a deformed bottom jaw, but that still was a COD. But realistically, at the minute, you're after whitings mainly. There's a few rooker about, but not at Caister. There's going to be more rooker if you go to the southern at Corton, Hopton, or if you go to the north, Munsley way. It's a lot better in here for that sort of thing. Well, the winch is all sorted on the tractor and that's all running lovely. I would like to have gone off in the boat. I ain't been off in the boat in 11 days, but obviously weather and work get in the way. Can't have it all till I retire. The old chap went off in the boat on his own. He just shot in the bay off Yarmouth and didn't do very good. He had 2 heron. What ain't a lot, is it? These fish seem to be ever so patchy. That was a good breeze, we couldn't run off, but then again the last time we ran off we only had a box or so, didn't we? So I don't know what's going on. Them fish are very, very patchy. They seem to be getting worse year on year. But we do know that in the spring there's always tons of spent heron. But them full heron, for the last 5-10 years, they ain't been coming in close every autumn. Some years you got to go out, some years they're in the beach. But this year, they've all been off. There's been very little in the beach. Last year, they come in the beach virtually straight away. I don't know what's going on with it. I can't understand it. I think if I understood the sea 100%, like, I think I'd be worth of billions. I don't think anyone really totally understands the sea. Scientists try and prove things, but they ain't right on everything. But there you go. You see there, the windmills straight southerly virtually, but the swell on the seas safe easterly, isn't us on a boat. But it ain't nice enough to go off in the boat, that's for certain. Well, the camera make it look 10 times better than what it actually is. Well, I'd better give a reel into that 3-hook flapper I put out 10 minutes ago. Just a quick coffee, warm the old cockles and all that, so better reel in. Well, you can't get any better than that, can you? 3 out of 3. They don't look particularly big, they're all skinny old things. All well below the size limit. But if anyone's interested, only skinny old things, I'd say they're about 250mm. Nothing to them really, and all skinny. So get them unhooked and get them back. But 3 out of 3, you can't go better than that, can you? Well, as I was walking down the beach to cast out, a couple of women on horses come along, and I was a bit worried they might have come seaward side of my rods and hit my lines, because we all know how finicky horses are. They're mental. But luckily they had a bit of common sense. They went behind the back of me and rid up the top of the beach. See? They seem to have a lot more common sense than a lot of dog owners. I've got to say, dog owners are funny old buggers. Some are brilliant, some are superb, some are full of common sense, and other ones are just daft as a brush, aren't they? Well, the 2-hook flappers jiggling around like hell, so I'm sure there's whiting on there too. That's only about there 5 minutes if that. Must be knee deep with them if they're there in daylight. Just chewed up bait, pissed up my leg, didn't it? There was clearly whiting on there and they got off. Look at them baits. I'll go a little bit long, so another coffee. Stop coffeeing, more reeling. Well, it seemed like there's plenty of whiting here in the daytime. There's a lot of colour in the water. Well, we just had a northerly gale, haven't we? That's churned all the water up. And then today it's gone southerly. But there's plenty of colour in the water, so them whiting are feeding all the time. There was a lot of red weed at the top of the tide mark, so that's why I done something a bit different. Normally I always fish near the end of the tides, that sort of thing, around the tide, but I've come mid-tide. So obviously when there's a lot of tide run, and that pick the weed up and that carry it mid-water, and then that, as a tide ease, that drop out of the water and run along the bottom. Well, I don't want to be pulling in tons and tons of weed, and there isn't much at the minute. Last couple of casts, all there's been is a little tiny tippet on the top of my trace. That pull off like in one go, so that's brilliant. I can live with that. There's nothing worse than getting look like weed otters up your line, 3 foot long. Awful stuff, innit? Well, hopefully we'll have something on the 3-hook flapper this time. As you see, there's a little bit more weed there this time, and no hat trick, but I got 2 out of 3. At least that one's a lot better white than that is. That one's on a size limit, I reckon. But that's just another skinny 25 centimetre job. So if I was on a match, that one would be alright, and that one would be under. I'll get these unhooked and get them back. Yeah, well, one of them whitens was sizable, the other one was under. There doesn't seem to be like the shoals of sprats anymore what used to feed them whitens. So them whitens used to be fat as hell this time of year, fill up on sprats. Traditionally the heron netters used to pull the boats in on fireworks night because the best of it was over, and after fireworks night they'd go spratting until Christmas. Well, spratting just after Christmas, and that was it. They never went heron fishing in the spring like we do. But I don't know why, but the sprats seem to have disappeared. That the sea's got hardly any sprats in it anymore like it used to be. Don't know why. Industrial fishing, temperature, who knows. Well, I just reeled in again. There's a bit more weed. This is on the top of the trace, there's about the same on the leader knot, but only one whiting on the 2-hook flapper. That's a skinny, poor little old thing in it, like a razor blade. No size to it, but that's easily unhooked just in the lip, but look at that poor old skinny thing. I'll get that back and rebait it then. Well, I'm only casting 30-40 yards. There's no point in casting any further than that. I was giving a little bit more, went up to like 60-70 yards, and all I was doing was getting more weed. So you might as well make life easier for yourself and fish close, mightn't you? What's the point in casting out further, picking up more weed and getting the same stamp of fish? You see here the safe easterly, that's pushing all the food items and stuff ashore anyway, I imagine. So you don't need distance. Not on a safe easterly. Obviously pushing the feed ashore if there's any about, I imagine. There's one good thing, that seems to be knee deep in whiting here. And that's one perk rather than heron as bait. That's cheap and cheerful. Like when we're getting dollops in the boat, I sell the heron for 5 for a quid. That's dirt, innit? That's too cheap really, but traditionally they've been sold for nothing around here. And if you're selling them for proper money, then you're being undercut by someone else. Well, there you go. What a lovely evening. Oh, it's a bit breezy, but in the old beach body that's alright out of the wind. Plenty of colour, and that's nice to get a few fish before dark. It is more fun fishing in the, well, not fun should I say, easier fishing in the light, and you can see everything better. But I've got my old trusty LED lamp again and flask. They're worth the weight in gold, and obviously got a couple of head torches. Long gone are the days when you brought Coleman's with you. Alright, they are handy on freezing cold nights where you put a stone on top or heat up a pie, etc. But generally, there are not many people use the old fuel lanterns anymore. They were the thing of the past, didn't they? Well, that's another single whiting on the 2-hook flapper. They're all little tiny old things. There's no quality amongst them apart from one or two. All hooked just in the bottom lip. Look at that, tiny little old things. Oh, see that? Nothing to them. Poor old little buggers. I think they're starving. Well, the 3-hook flapper, that went round with the flood ever so quickly. And that's the weed on the trace, but there's a lot more on the lead and not up the line. But I got one whiting out of 3 hooks. That's a better whiting, better stamp. That probably ain't quite 27 centimetres. That's gone on the deck. That ain't quite 27 centimetres, but that's a nice healthy looking fish. Not like them old skinny old things. But I'll get that back. Well, that tide is going like stink now. I think the tide times are slightly out. That said in the book, Peel Ports, that's going to be 140. Low water, well, you can add an R on for flow, so it's 240. But that's later than that. I think this southeasterly gale kept pushing that ebb going, and that's later than what it should have been. You sometimes find that if the wind, if there's a good breeze, that's with the tide, that'll push the tide on for longer than what it should do. But it's only just started to pick up now, this flood, and that's going like stink, and that's pushing the gear right round to the southward. Doesn't help with all that weed on it, but ayo, is what it is. It's nice to get a few fish in the daylight. I weren't expecting that really, but there's a nice lot of colour to the water. But looking off here, there's a hell of a lot of gulls sitting on the water. I think they just don't know what they're doing. There's a hell of a lot of gulls off here, whether that southeasterly breeze is blowing bits and pieces ashore, so they're getting a bit of a feed from it. Who knows? Well, it's starting to get dark now. I've got the old LED light on, and that's glowing up the rod tips nicely. I'm amazed how well these cameras pick up in low light levels, because according to this, that looked lovely and bright, or still light, but it ain't really. In real life, it's virtually dark. They seem to pick up really well, these cameras, and all of a sudden, it's like someone flicking a switch. But yeah, the old tips are rattling well. I better go and reel them in. Hopefully that ain't tons of weed, but that weed was picking up. Well, that's a lot better, isn't it? Just reeled in the 2-hook flapper and got 2 decent whiting. That one's the one on the bottom hooks. That one's a lovely looking fish. That's skinny, but it's still a good looking fish. That's well over the size limit. I think they're both. This one isn't quite as big. I'd say that's pushing about 25, but that one's definitely sizable. Let's get that off and see how big it is. The poor thing's got an eye missing. Yeah, on the old measure, that's definitely sizable, that one. Don't know how well you can see, but look at that. Poor old thing's got an eye missing. And that one is like another, this one's another little one, another 25 centimetre one, but the other one's definitely over the limit. Well, just reeled in the 3-hook flapper, and look at that, that's a stonking whiting, that is, isn't it? That is a stonker. That's a cracking whiting. I'll put it on the measure. That's 34 centimetres. So you can't complain with that for a whiting. I might even keep this one for tea. Can't complain with 34, it's the best white of the evening. Well, that's tea, that's going to make a whiting goujon. The other one, not quite so good. Just to be unhooked and put back. Poor little old thing. Well, that's a lovely crack on whiting, that is. That's easily the best one of the evening. Lovely fat plump fish. That one's definitely coming on for tea. I don't really ever keep whitings in the boat, but when you get them on the beach, a lot harder one, aren't they? That's a lovely prime fat plump whiting, that is. But things with whitings, not teaching you to suck eggs, I'm sure most of you know. But if you're going to keep whitings, gut them ASAP, because their guts rot ever so quickly. They really do. The guts will rot and taint the fish in no time. I wouldn't even leave them over, you can't leave them overnight. You need to get them out as soon as you can, really. But I'm going to gut this one here and get it cleaned out now. If you're going to keep them, you might as well keep them good. Well, I just gutted the whiting, and if you look at it, all that was in the stomach was a little tiny crab. There was nothing else there, but you can obviously see that's the orange roe, so they're full of roe, they're breeding fish. It's a little tiny crab what's been eaten on. But the rest of the stomach, let's give it a squeeze, there's anything else in it. No. Oh. There is a squeeze the rest of the stomach. And there's the head of a brown shrimp, so what was in it? Was that little crab and a little old brown shrimp head. But that's plenty of roe in it. So you can see there's a brown shrimp head ever so clearly, that's obvious what that is. I'll then wash my hands now and get rid of that. Should the seagulls out for breakfast. Well, that's the 2 up flapper just reeled in again. That's another whiting. Not over the size, it was only about 25, but it's a nice plump one. They seem to be getting better quality stamp of fish after dark. Maybe the shoals are coming in closer to get more competitive. But I'm reeling in every 5 minutes for 2 reasons. 1, because the bait's gone, and 2, the build up of weed. Weed isn't too bad, it's manageable. Easily. Well, it's all gone better this time. 2 whiting and they're cracking whiting. Both over the size limit. I'll keep them for the old chap. He's got 3 whiting for tea now. The only problem is that time I reeled in, I've got about 2 foot of weeds. That weed's getting worse. But there you go, that's life. Well, just this whiting is definitely over. I'm just going to check that one and see how I get on. Then I'll bait up and go for another go. Well, that's my last cast. 3 up flapper. Still got the bait on. I didn't leave it long, but it's only a tiny little old whiting. I'll now unhook it and get it back. But I can't be too late tonight, I've got stuff to do. Being a Friday night and all that. So I just put it back. Well, it's now 5:30. I've been here for 2.5 hours. That's enough. Plenty of fish, knee deep, cheap bait. What more do you want? I'm now finishing packing up. Both rods are down. Just got to put the beach buddy and my tripod away. I'll nip in the old man's on the way home and he can have them food whiting for lunch. The next couple of days he'll be over the moon with them. I think he loves whiting, just like picking around buns and stuff. Just the same as he prefer a whole crab and not a dress crab, like picking it all around. I think that's half the fun, it's like an adult toy for him. Well, hope you enjoyed it. Glad you keep on watching. Thanks for the support, guys. Catch you later. Bye. Well, I just got around the parents' house and they're not in. So I give them a phone call and they're just come out of Philby. They'll be home in 10 minutes. So as I'm nice like that, I just flick the kettle on because I'm sure the old boy will want a pot of tea. And then 3 whitings, I just put in the sink and rinse, add a bit of sand on them. I'll let them drain for a few minutes and I'll wrap them up and put them in his fridge. How good is that? And that's what you call service. I bet you're glad he had me now. Catch you all later. Bye.